Hey there, friends. David Lightbringer here to spoil everything. Well, actually, I'm here to talk about several of the new characters on the show, the Dragon Seeds, but I won't be able to do that without talking about what happens in Fire and Blood. The Dragon Seeds are already one of the most interesting parts of Season 2, though, and it seems like a lot of people do want to know more and want to discuss the interesting choices they're already making in adapting these characters to screen. And so here we are. And like most of the characters in Fire and Blood, we only get a few facts or details, or even just rumors about who the various Dragon Seeds are and what they do. So it's been very interesting so far to see them integrated into the story earlier than expected and with more context. The Dragon Seeds usually aren't the main story of the Dance of the Dragons, but they do come into many of the main events and increasingly do become major players over the course of the war. They also offer us a fascinating angle on the Targaryens. These Dragon Seeds might also have the ability to ride dragons and show off their silver hair in fancy court clothes, but somehow they just aren't on the radar for the Targaryens born on the right side of the sheets. That is, until they are. And the thing about Dragon Lords is, they are all lords in truth. Anyone who has a dragon can essentially become a barbarian warlord at any time. After all, Aegon and his sisters conquered all of Westeros with only 3 dragons. So what I'm saying is there's no promotion like a promotion to Dragon Rider. And these seeds have not grown up with the same perspective as the royal Targaryens, to say the least. And thus no one will really be able to predict what they will do. Even us Fire and Blood readers can already tell that these characters are more complex than most expected, so even the actions we think we know are coming may look somewhat or even totally different when they actually happen on screen. So let's dig into Hard Hugh Hammer, Ulf the White, aka Ulf the Sot, and Adam of Hull, and we'll even discuss Adam's brother Alan, because that's father, and you gotta respect father. Now, if you're curious about Nettles, who is another Dragon Seed from Fire and Blood, I made a big old Nettles video a couple of weeks before the season, which basically has everything you could want to know about her life, the possible choices in bringing her into the show, and more. So I'm not going to talk about her today. The long and short of it is that she doesn't seem to have been cast, and Ryan and the other show people have been tight-lipped about whether she will appear on the show or not. So she might be coming in Season 3, or parts of her plot perhaps could be given to Rhaena, or maybe even Mysaria, some are suggesting. But for now, she's not on the show, and so today we'll focus on Hugh, Ulf, Adam, and like I said, also Alan. And we'll discuss why they are each compelling figures, what they bring to the story, and what I think we will see from them in particular on the show in the future. Ulf the White, aka Ulf the Sot, got the most development in episode 3, so we'll start with him. Most people seem to really like the casting and the general framing of the character so far. Ulf is the familiar sort of tavern tall talker who is obviously somewhat full of it, but seems to mean no real harm and is in the end very entertaining and even a little endearing. So think of Nimble Dick Crab, in other words. Nimble Dick sends his regards. They'll make me do the voice. So yeah, Ulf has some of that energy. You know, people like Ulf, Nimble Dick, they're always trying to get someone to buy them a drink, and generally making it well worth people's time to do so. Huzzah! One more round for our friend here. Who did you say your grandfather was? Now, it is true that casual theft seems to come pretty easy to our boy Ulf, so that actually is an indication of low character. It doesn't seem like this guy is stealing because he's starving, right? Seems more like a, I want that, so I'll just steal it kind of thing, which I guess proves he's a real Targaryen. But to me, the fun part of him telling his tales is the whole, shh, don't say it too loud thing, you know? He's using people's nicknames like it was some sort of phone call about a drug deal. Yeah, my friend who likes to conciliate. You know the guy. No, don't say his name. You want to get us killed. The other fun part, well, actually, it's all fun so far with Ulf, is that we get the sense that we should pretty much never believe a word he says, for sure. But we do get the impression that he probably is the blood of the dragon. Well, I guess I said this as a spoilers video, so yeah, we know he is. And the people in the bar think he is. I mean, look at that hair, after all. But is he really the brother of Viserys and Daemon, the secret bastard son of Balon the Brave? Maybe. Maybe not. Probably not, to be honest. We know that Targaryen men, both on Dragonstone and in King's Landing, do not hesitate to sleep around and father children on the side, and that there are no shortage of silver-haired common folk in both locations, King's Landing and Dragonstone. These are the Dragon Seeds, and their origins could be anything from half-brother or son of the current Targaryen monarch to someone whose great-great-grandfather was a Targaryen bastard from the time of the conquest, or even before. In fact, there were even Valyrians on Dragonstone a good 100 years or so before Aenar Targaryen moved his family there. So some dragon seeds may not even be Targaryen. And then we've also got Velaryon dragon seeds, like Adam. Adam is a Velaryon dragon seed. Or even Celtigar dragon seeds. Where's our Celtigar dragon rider? I ask you on behalf of Nimbledick Crab. Could Ulf's claim that Balon the Brave is his father actually be right, though? Well, in short, I don't think so. Balon and Alyssa Targaryen actually have one of the most compelling romances of any brother-sister Targaryen couple. They were close growing up and married young when Balon was 18 and Alyssa 15 or 16. And George even took the time to tell us about the raucous wedding night, where Alyssa's sounds of pleasure could be heard all the way to Duskendale, which, if you look on the map, means that Balon knew his business in the bedroom. Good man, that Balon the Brave. Anyway, that doesn't mean that he might not have sired a bastard somewhere, but there's no hint about it anywhere. And Alyssa really does seem like the type of woman that, no one else could have rivaled for Balon. She has honey blonde hair instead of the normal Targaryen gold and mismatched eyes, one green and one purple, and she broke her nose when she was young. So kind of a quirky and unique looking Targaryen. She had a warrior's heart. She was strong, quick, spirited, and was also a bit of a tomboy growing up, eschewing the girly stuff, if you will, to train in the yard with the boys, that sort of thing. And yet Alyssa claimed to be, quote, as bawdy a wench as any barmaid in King's Landing. So in general, this just seems like a badass character who didn't see fit to be confined by much of anything or anyone's expectations. Alyssa was Meleys's first rider, by the way, while her husband Balon the Brave rode mighty Vhagar. That's right, Nana. So Alyssa and Balon, of course, just to make sure we're all on the same page, they are the parents of Viserys and Daemon. And when Alyssa died shortly after giving birth to their third child, whom Balon hoped was a girl for Alyssa's sake, and whom did not survive, sadly, it absolutely shattered Balon, who continued to honor Alyssa's memory after her death. So, all in all, it doesn't seem likely that Ulf the White, aka Ulf the Sot, is the son of Balon the Brave. And come on, I mean, this guy's story has to have at least 2 lies in it for every truth, right? So who knows who he really is? But also, we know who he really is. He's kind of a pathetic sort, to be honest, talking tall and puffing himself up when he thinks it's safe, and even daring to call Aegon II a usurper, but then he's the first to shout, "All hail the king," when Aegon actually crashes the brothel. This is not a man with any sort of detectable principle and little ambition beyond figuring out how not to do any hard work for the next few hours. For example, the book character, after being knighted following the Battle of the Gullet, got really drunk and rode through Flea Bottom wearing only his golden spurs. And House of the Dragon showrunners, if you want to make this guy an absolute legend, you'll have the guts to adapt that scene. Cersei's Walk of Shame, sit down. There's a new sheriff in town, because Ulf is going streaking.
We're streaking! Come on! We're streaking! We're streaking!
So it's not hard to see that they are setting up Ulf to be very close to his book counterpart, a shameless betrayer who kind of goes with whatever he thinks will benefit him the most, but in kind of a lazy way that, again, seems to lack the naked ambition of his fellow betrayer, Hugh, at least at first. Ulf and Hugh are, of course, remembered as the 2 betrayers for their having defected to the Greens during the first Battle of Tumbleton. And afterward, they start to get truly big heads. Ulf says they should be lords, and Hugh says, no, fie on that, we should be kings. Fie on that, that's the actual line. So according to Mushroom, Ulf the White R-worded 3 maidens each night while living high on the hog at, I think it's the Badger's Inn after the battle. And Ulf may have even fed some women to his dragon, if they displeased him, who was Silverwing, by the way. Ulf was the rider of Silverwing. So we don't know if any of that's true, it's mushroom business, but it is believable. I mean, Ulf's main character trait is basically careless self-indulgence and a distinct lack of connection to the way his actions affect others, which is also known as selfishness. This is the sort of low character that we don't really need power to reveal. now, and it's no surprise that what comes out of Ulf when he is given power is quite ugly. Final note, I'm kind of looking forward to Ulf's death scene, which is sort of awesome. Hobart Hightower, who in the books is not the older brother of Sir Otto, but rather some sort of cousin, it's unclear, actually does a brave thing and tricks Ulf into drinking some poisoned wine by being willing to drink some himself. So at this point in the story, Ulf and Hugh had defected to the Greens, yes, but they quickly became such self-indulgent monsters who, again, spoke of claiming the throne that the Greens were also claiming, that a conspiracy called the Caltrops was developed by several of the higher-ups of the Greens to kill the two betrayers. However, just when they were going to strike, the Second Battle of Tumbleton broke out, and Ulf actually slept through the battle in a drunken stupor. Hobart Hightower, however, carried out the plan when he woke up, dying himself after successfully getting Ulf to drink the poisoned wine. After Ulf passes out, Hobart tries to throw up the poisoned wine that he had drunk, but it is too late and he dies too, so it should be pretty epic. And hopefully it will give us vibes of the duel of wits between Vicini and the dread pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride, of course.
What you do not smell is called iocane powder. It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly in liquid, and is among the more deadly poisons known to man.
All right, Hard Hugh Hammer, perhaps the most interesting of the Dragon Seeds so far. Actually, no, they're all interesting. Adam's pretty cool too. But what is certainly true is that Hugh so far seems to be the character where we find the most divergence from the book. He's got a whole ass family now. Look at him. Look at him go. In the books, Hugh is a bit of a one-note character. He's hard. He has a hammer. And he thinks he should be king. And he's very consistent about all of that. So perhaps the show character will eventually get to a similar place, but he's nowhere close right now, and that makes him interesting. Right now, Hugh seems like the perfect window into the lives of the small folk. His wife is talking about the prices of food at the market, giving us an update on how the blockade is affecting everyone.
People are afraid. Those with means are hoarding everything they can. I walked 2 hours today to find a chicken for the pot, and paid 3 times as much as I should have.
Hugh also has a sick little daughter, cue the audience, oh. That highlights, in all seriousness, the fact that as a father, Hugh is looking out for other people's interests beyond his own. So that puts him in direct contrast to Ulf, who is only looking out for himself. Hugh does have a little bit of a class politics angle, as we notice that he's pointing out the villainy and exploitation of the people yanking up the food prices already in anticipation of a shortage that isn't actually here yet. Even his wife sees the other side of that one, saying, hey, if we had food stored by, maybe we'd raise the prices too. And Hugh is apparently such a good person that he doesn't even want to believe that she would do that. So Hugh is definitely hashtag Team Smallfolk, and I think it's easy to see where this may be going, right? There's going to be some sort of family tragedy involving his daughter, or possibly his daughter and his wife, that will leave him broken and changed, and probably hardened. Hard Hugh Hammer, against the monarchy, or even against the Greens in particular. Or perhaps he's not even changed that much, just galvanized, and maybe what's written down in history as naked ambition and arrogance is actually something more like a people's revolt. Maybe Hard Hugh wants to claim the throne to do justice. Have we ever considered that? I certainly hadn't before, as there's no real hint of it in Fire and Blood, but obviously as a Team Smallfolk enthusiast, I'm pretty much engrossed with this dynamic in general and this development of Hugh's character in particular. So besides being one of the betrayers and turning his cloak against Team Black, which by the way leads to an absolute nightmare of a battle where many, many innocent people are killed, the main things that Hugh is recorded as doing that indicate he might be a lousy person are twofold. First, after he declares himself king and puts a black iron crown on his head following the first Battle of Tumbleton, he's insulted by a knight named Sir Roger Corn, who said, "A crown does not make a man a king. You should wear a horseshoe on your head, blacksmith." Hard Hugh responded by nailing 3 horseshoes to that guy's head, and then his men slew Sir Roger's men. So that's not very nice, and he was also said to have slept with a woman whose husband he had killed in the first Battle of Tumbleton, which probably wasn't something he gave the woman a choice about, and that's very much not nice. Now, because neither one of those dastardly deeds really affects the larger plot too much, the show could very easily just do away with him if they want to preserve Hugh as a more noble character. Or it could be possible, of course, that Hugh will go on a journey and eventually become this darker character from the books. Kind of seems like they're taking a different angle on him and will leave this sort of stuff out. And frankly, the idea of Hugh as a champion of the people has me pretty excited, which means they probably won't do it. But I don't know. They're setting it up. It seems like a pretty nice guy. So they will have to create a compelling justification for him switching sides, or else he will still seem villainous. Now, probably the coolest part of the Hugh the Hammer story, besides the fact that he claimed the mighty Vermithor, is the presence of prophecy in his story. No one seems to be sure where it came from, but there is this prophecy that emerges and is passed around by his soldiers, which says that a new king will arise when the hammer falls upon the dragon. Lord Hammer, and his men, they think this prophecy applies to him because he does fight with a hammer, hence the nickname. But of course, it seems like it was actually fulfilled when Robert Baratheon slew Rhaegar with his warhammer on the trident. But as far as thinking about how the show will adapt this kind of thing, it should add some great color to the story. I mean, who gives this prophecy? And how does a humble man like the Hugh that we see on the show handle the weight of prophecy, in contrast to, say, other prophecy-laden characters who are all royals, like Viserys, Rhaenyra, and Helaena, or even like Rhaegar or King Aegon V, aka Egg, from Dunk and Egg. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how a small folk handles being the fulcrum point of prophecy, and you can really see how the dragon seeds make great foils for the royal dragon riders, since they're sort of tossed into similar situations, but with entirely different perspectives and backgrounds. So like Sir Ulf, Sir Hugh has a fairly epic death scene. In the books, his strength is really played up, such that he's said to be able to bend iron bars with his huge blacksmith hands. And of course, you do have to be very strong to wield a warhammer in battle, as King Robert was. And Hugh must be a good fighter too, because in order to take him down, it took a guy with a cool nickname and a Valyrian steel sword, Bold John Roxton, and the sword called the Orphan Maker. So even the sword had a badass nickname, in other words. Bold John Roxton slew the hammer with his sword, but then supposedly slipped on some of Hugh's entrails, and was then slain by one of Hugh's men in turn. And Orphan Maker was actually lost at this battle, never to be seen again. All right, it's time to talk about Adam of Hull, Rider of Seasmoke, who is eventually legitimized as Adam Velaryon, along with his brother Alan, who becomes Alan Velaryon, and who actually married Baela after the war, with the Velaryon line continuing through Alan and Baela. In case you forgot, Jace dies at the Gullet, and that's why Baela is freed to marry. So in the books, Adam and Alan are said to be the children of Laenor, and a shipwright on Driftmark named Merilda of Hull. But it seems obvious to everyone that they are in fact the children of Corlys and Merilda. Now on the show, they have aged up Adam and Alan quite a bit, so there probably won't even be any doubt about who their father is, since they're basically Laenor's age. So yeah. I'm also guessing, just guessing, that it will turn out that Corlys fathered both kids, Adam and Alan, before he married Rhaenys, because he is a bit older than Rhaenys. But who knows? Maybe Corlys really did cheat on a dragon lord, and he's just a total madman. Corlys certainly isn't presented as perfect, in all seriousness. But let me know in the comments how you think that will turn out before they give us the reveal. Did Corlys father Adam and Alan before marrying Rhaenys, or after? So Adam, the dragon rider, he doesn't survive the war like his younger brother Alan does, but Adam certainly goes out in style as the most heroic of the dragon seeds, and perhaps the most heroic of any character in the dance. The center of his story is basically the fallout of the two betrayers, Hard Hugh and Ulf the Sot, and specifically how Rhaenyra reacts poorly to that. She seems to decide that she can't trust any of the Dragon Seed dragon riders that she helped create, and actually orders Adam to be arrested and put to sharp questioning, which means torture. I think sharp questioning is the mild torture, not the, Tyenna of the Tower 2 weeks long torture. But yeah, she ordered him arrested, and at this point in the story, Team Black actually is holding King's Landing, and Adam had remained in the city as the dragon rider on duty at the Dragon Pit when Hugh and Ulf flew down to Tumbleton to do battle. So Adam's on duty at the Dragon Pit, and that is where Rhaenyra sent men to arrest him. However, the Sea Snake struck first and sent warning, and Adam took off on Seasmoke. And by the way, Corlys is Rhaenyra's hand at that point, but Rhaenyra then has him arrested and thrown in jail. So this is a real low point for Rhaenyra. But then, plot twist, Adam, instead of just looking out for his own interests, decides to redeem himself in the eyes of Rhaenyra and Team Black and just redeeming all bastards in general as not being traitors by staying loyal to the cause. He raises a new army from the Riverlands and then shows up at the Second Battle of Tumbleton to turn the tide in dramatic fashion. Now, supposedly, he stopped by the Isle of Faces to consult with the Green Men before raising that army. And that's not even a mushroom detail, that's a the singers say detail, so make of it what you will. But House of the Dragon has been showing off their little Isle of Faces every time someone flies to Harrenhal, so maybe they plan to capitalize on this rumor and make something interesting of it, and we'll see Adam Velaryon fly to the Isle of Faces. Maybe he's a Green Seer too. Maybe they're all Green Seers. Larys and Daemon and Adam. Everyone's a Green Seer. I'm kidding. Captain Bringdown, I know. Just not into the secret Green Seer thing. In any case, Adam shows up at Second Tumbleton with about 4,000 men and attacks under cover of darkness, leading to a rout of the Green forces. This was a crucial victory because if they had lost, there was nothing in between the army of the Greens and King's Landing. So Adam is remembered as having saved the city through his sacrifice. And yes, he does die in battle. In Dragon Battle, as a matter of fact. So Hugh and Ulf had both been killed by the Caltrops conspirators by the time that Adam showed up, but he didn't know that, and so moved to attack their dragons with his dragon, Seasmoke. And that led eventually to some sort of three-way tussle on the ground between Seasmoke, Tessarion, and the much larger and enraged Vermithor. The tussle, as it will, it's a little more than a tussle, it left all three dragons dead, and Silverwing very sad, as we see Silverwing try to lift the wing of old Grandpa Vermi 3 times before accepting his death. This is very sad, obviously, and will be gut-wrenching if they do it on the screen, now that I think about it. But it's also an important detail for the lore, because it tells us that the dragons internalize the loves and hates of their riders, with the love between Jaehaerys and Alysanne having transferred to Vermithor and Silverwing. Silverwing supposedly flew off to an island in the middle of Red Lake and lived out her life there, or at least is not heard from again, so one of the few dragons that survives the dance, but seemingly nothing really ever comes of that. She just goes to the island and pines away for Vermithor for the rest of her days, I guess. Man, that is sad. But it's still better than getting ripped apart by another dragon, so yeah, there's that. Alright, so a few years after the war, Adam's bones are returned to his brother Alan, who buried him under a tombstone marked only with the word loyal. Now, it occurs to me that on the show, they've developed the Velaryon funeral rites in a very cool way. You know, if you remember Laena's funeral, where she is sent down below the waves to the Merling King, and there's all this really cool symbolism and stuff. So I'd guess that they will change this, and it won't be a tombstone, but maybe they'll carve loyal on his Velaryon sea casket. But yes, however you want to slice it, because of his heroism, honor, and bravery, Adam of Hull / Adam Velaryon has always been one of the most loved of the dragon seeds in the story, and he's always just been kind of like a ray of sunshine in a story about two sides basically just sinking lower and lower into war crime land as this thing carries on. Corlys is largely remembered as a noble figure, and Adam seems to have taken that sense of honor from his father and certainly proved himself more than worthy of the name. Even though the war was pretty nuts for House Velaryon, they actually do come out on the other side in pretty good shape, with their good reputation intact and with Alan and Baela ruling Driftmark as Lord of the Tides and Lady of Driftmark. On this week's episode, we saw that the issue of who will inherit Driftmark after Corlys is an issue that is currently vexing him, since none of the potential candidates actually, sail. Alan of Hull obviously rectifies that, being an accomplished sailor who's been sailing with Corlys for years, so you can see how that kind of works out better for the house in general. To be Lord of the Tides, you need to be a sailor, I would think, so yeah. They ended up in the right place. Now, we've already seen some interesting character development between the two brothers, Adam and Alan, on the show. The main difference, besides Alan being a sailor and Adam a fisherman, is that Adam thinks it's right for the brothers to seek Corlys' attention and favor, while Alan prefers to kind of keep his head down, stay out of the spotlight, and just sort of earn his own way. Alan has also seen combat and is a little more cautious about the war to come, while Adam has a little more of that foolish, youthful, it's going to be exciting kind of energy.
That's because you haven't seen what I've seen. There is a war brewing, Adam. A real one.
Another opportunity to distinguish yourself.
And you can see how this character framing will work well to set up their subsequent actions, with Adam ultimately finding glory in battle, and Steady Alan going on to secure the future of the house. Steady Alan with his hand at the tiller. That's right. Gotta throw in a sailing metaphor for old Corlys, since that's basically all he can speak in is sailing metaphors. It's also worth noting that in the books, Alan actually does try to claim a dragon, Sheepstealer, but gets a little bit burned in the process. Not too bad though, as Adam shows up with sea smoke to drive off Sheepstealer, with Adam putting out the fires of Alan's burning clothing with his own cloak. I'm guessing that some version of this scene will make the show, simply because it just sounds like too much fun. Oh yes, and I guess I should say something about sea smoke and what's the deal with Laenor. Well, guys, we've speculated about it a lot in the last 2 years, and I just want to prepare you for the very anticlimactic resolution that I think is coming. It's probably going to be something like, oh, we received word that he died, or maybe they won't even address it at all, and Sea Smoke will just bond with Adam, and that'll be that. I could be wrong, and maybe they'll explain how Laenor released the Dragon Bond psychic link between he and Sea Smoke through some ritual or pure intention, I don't know. But I guess they're not going to spend much time on it, and they're just going to move on to Adam claiming Sea Smoke. And to be honest, the Laenor thing is really just a loose plot point from last season. It's not something that we need to spend a lot of time on. So yeah, I would just say get ready for Sea Smoke to be claimed by Adam, probably sometime soon, and that'll probably be that. All right, folks, so little different video this week. Thanks very much for watching, and I've got an even bigger video coming out at the end of this week, which is the Dreams Come from Dragons video that I've been talking about for a couple weeks now, and that is going to be a big Ice and Fire theory, my unifying theory about dragon dreams and how those work and where they're coming from. And I'll be talking about this new detail that we learned where Daenerys the Dreamer claims Balerion the Black Dread and then has the Dream of the Doom that night, which again is a big clue that the dragon dreams come from the dragons, who are trying to tell the Targaryen stuff. So look out for that one in a couple days. Thanks for watching, thanks for clicking like, thanks for leaving comments, thanks for coming to the Aftermath, thanks for being beautiful and wonderful and friendly, and I'll see you again real soon.